It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue, again, in Council Bluffs. And thank you to Joe's Karting. We have a new feature that you're going to be able to enjoy us with. Download the Stitcher app on your phone, and as soon as we post the show at about 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings, you'll get a notification on your phone, and then anywhere you go, you can listen to the replay of the show. It'll have everything that we do. And a lot of times what we post on the internet between the YouTube show and what we'll post on Stitcher is going to be an extended version of the show because, you know, Dirk and I will just get to rapping about a couple of things and conversations, and we'll kind of bounce here and there. And then when I go to edit the show up to fit within the 58 minutes window that we have here on AM 590, I have to cut some certain conversations out. And sometimes we have to cut down interviews because we go 20 minutes when we ask for 10 because the interview is just going so nice. So a lot of that times the extended stuff ends up on the internet version, and you can download the Stitcher app. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you anything to have. And the nice thing about the Stitcher app is that it's a lower bandwidth, so you don't have to have video streaming capabilities with YouTube. YouTube is also a little bit difficult because you couldn't shut your phone off and kind of put it in your back pocket, driving down the road, plug it in. You know, you had to leave the screen on. At least on my cell phone, you have to leave the screen on for the YouTube show to play. So the Stitcher app is just like a podcast. Now our show is available on the podcast. And again, we want to say thanks to Joe's Karting for everything they do to support this show. They really do make it possible. And then all of our sponsors help continue the show and give us the things that we're able to do.
So for all of us older people with a lot of age and a lot of experience in our lives, and we are not tech savvy, this is better than YouTube.
Yes, I think it's more convenient than YouTube. It's just like downloading an MP3, like listening to music on your phone.
I've never done that, so
this will be a new thing for you. Again, go to your app store. It works with Android and Apple phones. Just go to your version of the the store, the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, and download the Stitcher app, and then you could find the front stretch. We have our own channel, and we'll get a lot of information up as the show goes on.
So this is the start of our dominance of this market for the world?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
Right. This is as we begin to take over our world domination as far as racing conversation is concerned.
Well, we should have been there a long time ago.
True, but I'm kind of lazy. All right, let's take a look at today's show. In turn number one, we will recap the race at Charlotte and a couple of the news stories that happened to come out of that race. In turns 2 and 3, we will sit down with Luke Cochran, who is the owner of Home Pride Companies and Home Pride Motorsports. For Home Pride Motorsports, they have drivers under their stable like Jesse Sobbing, Jack Dover, Corey Wilson, Mike Nichols, and Dennis Cook, who is presently temporarily retired. Maybe permanently, we'll have to find out in the future. But that'll come up in turns 2 and 3. We'll talk to him about his getting the Home Pride Motorsports going, what Home Pride Companies does, his little bit into his personal life, because we always like to dig behind the owner a little bit and find out what's going on. And then in turn number 4, we will preview the race to come today, the AAA 400 Drive for Autism at Dover. Dirk, the race recap for Charlotte Motor Speedway. I kind of sent it out in the official race report. I think I played my hand a little bit. Thank the racing gods that this race was more entertaining than the All-Star race, because we were all pretty fearful of what it was going to be like when the conclusion of that All-Star race.
Yeah, it had a lot of green flag racing. Had a big accident real early in the race where
Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski got together.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say it like that because that makes it sound like they were battling in the corner and somebody slipped up. This was kind of a weird instance, and kudos to Fox for being able to catch what happened and what transpired.
That piece flying off was it the 55?
I thought it was the 33.
Could have been. Yeah, it was Jeffrey Earnhardt.
Yeah.
And
his transmission came apart, or something in the drivetrain came apart.
Something in the drivetrain, a ton of smoke, but the smoke didn't start until about the start-finish line. But in turn 4, there was a chunk that come out of the back of the car. What it was, a gear or something, who knows? But somehow Chase Elliott ended up running over it, and whether he popped the oil pan or took a line off or whatever, he had gotten way out of it and really slowed up. and Brad Keselowski didn't have anywhere to go, who was hammered down behind him and didn't see anything happen.
He was in the process of trying to pass another car, which then blocked his view of what was going on in front of him. And by the time the spotter came over the radio and said, go high, go low, go whatever, he was already in the slick.
Yeah, and at that point, Brad did probably a pretty good thing because there was a huge discrepancy in the speeds of the two cars. If he would have tried to maneuver around and hit him on a corner or something, it could have really got ugly. He just took it square on the nose, and a lot less carnage that way.
So it took those two guys out. Neither of them, I believe, were major picks in the fantasy contest. I'll have to look back, but I think maybe they had one pick apiece, but that wasn't a big loss for a lot of the fantasy fans, a lot of the fantasy players. As the race went on, again, I'm kind of shaky on the details. I tried to watch the races as the week went through, but I was busy out at the Charlie Clark Memorial. And by the way, I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but that's one of my favorite races.
Yeah, you mentioned
Okay, just making sure. So Dirk, you were kind of sending me updates, and a little bit of surprising. They weren't expecting anything in the forecast, but there was a bit of a rain shower and about an hour and a half delay.
Yeah, and really didn't affect the race, I don't think. It was early.
I was kind of worried.
About lap 140, I think, so in the second stage. So
I was kind of worried that it would wash off that VHT or whatever they laid down.
Well, I don't know if it did or not, but they they've been working with how to put that stuff on. And if the asphalt's a little bit more worn, it's going to stick better. See, that's the thing with Bristol being concrete. It's got to really be pretty smooth for the racing. So it washes off a lot easier off that concrete than it would the asphalt. So, but there was definitely a couple different grooves. And by the end of the night, it was a lane and a half off the bottom was where the guys were really flying. Now, Austin Dillon stayed so hard on the bottom, I think that's what allowed him to keep his gas mileage there at the end. He didn't go up high and run the long way around. He went the shortest distance possible down the apron on the front straightaway, and he got the job done doing that.
Well, and a good run for him. And the thing that I think I took away from that, Charlotte, and I heard a lot of people say for that win for Austin Dillon, it wasn't a fuel strategy that he backed into. He was a top-running car all day.
Yeah, he was running good. I mean, the RCR cars this year have turned around. Ryan Newman already won a race. Paul Menard seems to be struggling a little bit, but, he's definitely got a car capable of winning, and he ran up front a little bit when they were doing the green flag stops and shuffling around and everything. So.
And who'd have thought 12 races into the 2017 season, we'd be talking about Richard Childress Racing with 2 wins and 2 cars in the playoffs already, and Joe Gibbs no wins.
Yeah, couple of the Joe Gibbs cars have been there. I mean, they got a lot of top 5s, but they just haven't been at the front.
And, again, that was kind of the talk this week was the Joe Gibbs cars struggling, but I think that's more of the media trying to make a little something of it. Listen, they're 12 races in. This time last year, we were pretty much ready to give Joe Gibbs Racing the championship. We were just trying to decide which one was going to win it, and it ended up being a Hendrick Motorsports Jimmy Johnson 7th championship. So there's a lot of racing left to go, and I kind of think a lot of the strategies for these teams is you can't play your cards too soon. If you think you found something and it shows up on a track as an advantage, I think there's a little bit of sense to not showing it all the time, because you need this for the final 10 races of the season. So if you find something, hide it, because that could have been exactly what Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus were doing last year. They found something, so they hit it, and Jimmy struggled, quote unquote. And now the Joe Gibbs Racing guys are, quote unquote, struggling, but we'll probably end up seeing one of them in championship victory lane at Homestead.
Well, obviously, 3 out of the 4 cars really got a challenge or got a chance, and Joe Gibbs West definitely has one car that could definitely win a title. So 4 out of 6 cars, the affiliation with Front Row or Furniture Row. But, I don't know why they don't just let Martin Truex drive the 19 and send Suarez over to Furniture Row and let him go. And I mean, Suarez actually had a pretty decent night going last week.
Yeah.
So
your top 10 at Charlotte, Austin Dillon. Again, he gets the win. Kyle Busch comes home second and cries about it post-race. Martin Truex Jr. finished third. Matt Kenseth fourth. Denny Hamlin 5th, Kurt Busch, Eric Jones, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. round out the top 10. Rough days for Brad Keselowski and Chase Elliott. Again, we documented their issue. Casey Kane finished 35th, and also a bad week for him. He lost his Great Clip sponsorship at the end of this season. Starting to look more and more like they better have a trick up their sleeve or Casey Kane's not going to be in that 5-car after in 2018.
Yeah, he got in some slick stuff there on the back straightaway and dumped her in the wall. It was a real funny accident, but
I'm sure he wasn't laughing.
You know,
that was a bit of a joke.
One thing I noticed that I'd never paid any attention to, switching gears just a little bit, the Indy 500.
Yeah.
Got to enjoy most of it. Some pretty good racing. A really, I don't know if horrifying is the right word, but the crash where Scott Dixon got upside down.
I think that's a pretty closely good word. That was horrifying.
Yeah, if he would have hit that wall another foot in the wrong direction, he wouldn't be around anymore. That was pretty bad. Yeah. But I've always noticed NASCAR's big stance on the safer barriers and everything. They don't have them all the way around Indy. They've just got them in the turns.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't realized that before. I just kind of figured it was all the way around, but I just noticed the other day, hey, that just goes through the turns.
You know, that's an unfortunate thing that we've talked about. A lot of these tracks, the sanctioning body leaves it up to the tracks for how much they're going to cover. And the tracks were supposed to do this survey about the most impacted portions of their retaining walls, and then they were going to cover them. And we've talked about it almost every time after somebody finds an uncovered retaining wall where there's no safer barrier.
Oh, it's like a magnet.
They're going to find it. And so these tracks have got to be proactive and run safer barrier all around this. I know these tracks are crying and saying attendance is down, revenue is down, and this stuff's $1 million per 100 yards or whatever, but you'll be crying even worse when a driver loses their life and it comes back and says, you guys had the ability to save that by putting up a safer barrier.
Well, and I mean, you know, let's go back to the Kyle Busch incident there at Daytona where he busted his leg up real bad, you know, and if the safer barrier would have been there, he still might have broke his leg.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't know because it wasn't there. We do know when he hit concrete, he did break his leg and started all kinds of nastiness about Kyle winning the championship when he only ran 2/3 of the season. Yeah. But I did think I thought his mic drop the other day was good.
I'll fight, and I will literally fight, have an argument discussion with anybody. I think Kyle Busch was far more qualified to win that championship that year than anybody else. I don't care what anybody tells me. They let him into the chase. They did not. They did not let him into the chase. They gave him a medical exemption, which was a part of the rules 3 years prior. It's the same medical exemption that Tony Stewart got. It's the same medical exemption that Denny Hamlin got. Nobody complained then. It's the Kyle haters, and I feel free anytime you see me out. We'll have that conversation, and we'll have that talk, and I'll probably end up convincing you, or we'll end up in a wrestling match.
Which the bad part about that, Dan, is you'll probably lose.
I will probably lose, even if it's a 12-year-old girl. She'll kick my butt. Kyle Larson also had a rough day, finished 33rd, and that kind of rounds out the rest of the rough days. Your points standings: Martin Truex Jr. took over the points lead because of that Kyle Larson rough day, and Larson fell back to second. Brad Keselowski third, Kevin Harvick fourth, Kyle Busch fifth, McMurray, Elliott, Johnson, Boyer, and Logano round out the top 10. All right, we're going to come back in turn number 2. We're going to sit down with the owner of Home Pride Motorsports. We'll talk to him in turns 2 and 3, and then in turn number 4, we will preview Dover. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
You wanted the best? They're coming 4 abreast. It's the World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars. The premiered winged warriors battle it out. The World of Outlaws Superstars. The greatest show on dirt is coming. The World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars are coming to Eagle Raceway for the Eagle Nationals, Tuesday, June 13th, racing at 7:30. Exchange a receipt from a participating Napa Auto Parts store for a $5 off general admission ticket at the gate on race day. To buy tickets, go to slspromotions.com.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 3, and it's brought to you by SLS Promotions, bringing you the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars at Eagle Raceway, June 13th. Get your tickets in advance, slspromotions.com. Don't miss out. First time in about 6-7 years that the World of Outlaws have made their return to Eagle Raceway, and you can catch them in action on June 13th. Joining us in the studio now, the owner, operator, proprietor, and man of many titles, but all-around nice guy is the one he likes. Luke Cochran, how you doing, sir?
Pretty good.
Home Pride Companies is the brand name of the company, the roofing, siding, gutters, all sorts of fun stuff. But then you get to play in the dirt because you created Home Pride Motorsports.
That's correct.
Which brings quite a few drivers some funding and support, including how many drivers do you have under your umbrella in all?
Well, the hard number guys are going to be, Dennis Cook, though he's in kind of semi-retirement, Jesse Sobbing, Jack Dover, Mike Nichols.
And then you also have Corey Wilson, who you kind of support a little bit through the karting industry and through his kart racing and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, we're kind of trying to groom him along, turn him into, something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and I've kind of talked to him a couple of times. Corey's working on getting a Sport Compact to try to start working his way up through the class. He's a very good kart racer. I'm surprised he's waited this long to move up into a higher class.
Well, he just hasn't had a lot of opportunities and funding, and there's always an issue with everybody. That Sport Compact class is actually a pretty damn good class. I wish it would have been around, back in my day.
Yeah.
It's safe, inexpensive. And it's actually cheaper than the kart racing he's trying to do.
Absolutely cheaper than kart racing. That kart racing is probably, with the tires they go through, probably about as much as a B-mod.
Oh, exactly. It's just kind of, it's scary. And if, the good cars, there's enough good cars out there, it's almost the best race of the night.
I completely agree. I've gotten a lot of criticism for some of the jokes I've made over the microphone I-80, and probably rightfully so, but I do enjoy that Sport Compact class because it's just a different style of racing. When you talk about an even playing field, there's not a lot of things they can do to those cars for an advantage, setup-wise, tire-wise, whatever. There's not a lot of things they can change, so it basically comes down to mechanical and driver talent.
Exactly.
And those Sport Compacts. But anyways, yeah, so that's your driver lineup. And, boy, what a Memorial Day weekend you guys had.
Yeah, it come together. We probably could have added at least one more win had Jesse not got kind of hung up in some lap traffic in Norfolk. But it's a lot of fun to win in two different cars for him. When you have the two late models that we have and you ask him, it's like, well, which one do you like the best? The answer you always hope for is I can't tell them apart, and that's the one he gave me.
That is a good thing, and a dominating win, too. I'm kind of surprised. Jesse raced USMTS last year. He's been racing modifieds for a long time, whether it be a B-mod or an A-mod. And then you guys put together this late model ride in the off-season. I'm kind of surprised he's taken to it so quickly.
I'm not.
You're not?
No, I figured he was going to shine fairly quickly. He got maybe a little overly aggressive in the beginning and run a couple of those Drury Brothers races over in eastern Iowa, and those eastern Iowa guys, that's kind of a mafia over there, and
kind of
it's if you're on the wrong side of I-35, you really don't have a lot of value. So the good thing Jesse's got going for him is that it still says he's from Iowa. Poor old Jake Neal from Omaha, they're beating up on him a little bit too.
They don't take too kindly to the Omaha guys coming over that way.
They don't take too kind to anybody on this side of I-35.
Well, even just the Deary brothers, but also racing the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series. He's doing well in that too. I think he's top 5 in points, right?
Well, we're leading the points in both series.
Oh, okay.
Both Deary brothers and Malvern Bank.
And that's something that I thought was kind of cool. One of the things you announced at the awards ceremony last year for the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series is the Home Pride Money Grab. And it's a prize pool that you and Joe Kaziski put together. Idea-wise, it's your prize pool. You're ponying up the money for anybody that can win back-to-back features.
Right. It's called the Home Pride Jackpot. And it's $777 for anybody that can do back-to-back features, which obviously puts Jesse in position for that. I just redesigned the check, made it a little bit bigger check.
Yeah.
To, I kind of like to overdo things. So anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So
the only 777 I've seen you've issued so far has been to Tad Pospischel, though.
Yes. And Tad's a heck of a racer, good, clean racer. Really enjoy watching him race. You got Kyle Burke, the mainstay that, he if you can chase him down and pass him, you've accomplished something.
And Tad's family, aren't they the promoters up there at the Off-Road Speedway in Norfolk? Aren't they?
I know they have something to do with that up there. Yeah, that was my first visit to that place. It's that's pretty unique. If good racing facility, good racetrack, it's nice and wide. It's a racy racetrack. It's got a top and a bottom to it. They dredged up some of the river bottom dirt and reconfigured it, or put another layer of that on there, and it didn't fill up full of holes. It was smooth. The whole facility is just top notch, in my opinion. It they got a camping facility and a motocross track, and you can go out there and ride your ATV or your motocross bike or something like that. You can camp. They've got a little restaurant and bar that's there.
Well, it's a racetrack. It's got to have a bar.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice facility. I think they're going to do well there.
Going back to the SLMR series, as the drivers were registering at the beginning of the season, for the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a Kyle Burke show. I mean, that guy shows up and just dominates at some of these tracks, and he's consistent enough, he's talented enough, he's got enough funding into his operation that it's kind of been the Kyle Burke show. And I don't mean to talk bad about that. No. The guy's a talented driver. He deserves to win when he wins the championships. With Tad Pospisil coming back, I kind of thought, well, this is going to get interesting between those two because they had a pretty good points battle last time Tad was in that point series, but then moved on to the MLRA series. And now Jesse joined it, and I thought, oh, this is going to get good. Because if Jesse can get the hang of that car, it's going to be a really interesting points battle. And it's strange to see Kyle Burke so far back.
Well, he's not that far back, and you said the key words. I mean, Kyle is consistent. I mean, he's there. He gets everything out of the car that it can be gotten. He He does a good job out there. Doesn't overdrive.
He's such a wily
Doesn't make very
guy.
many mistakes.
Right. That's the toughest thing.
Maybe no mistakes at all.
Well, he's got a ton of experience, and you talk about him being so far back in the points. He had that trailer fire heading to the opener, and borrowed a car when he got to the track. I mean, obviously the season got off on the wrong foot for him, but I saw on Facebook that
they got
Campbell and Wyman hooked him up and got him in another trailer, and
it's actually a trailer that Joe Kaczynski owns the trailer. I've been trying to sell it. It's a trailer that we bought at a Marshall's auction that has a colorful past. It spent the last 6 years of its life in a in captivity,
police custody, right?
Yeah. It was in captivity for 6 years in a nice heated building inside. Awaiting the ability to be able to bid on it, and so, but it's working for him, and it was the first thing I thought of when I seen on Facebook that trailer on fire. It's like, what can we do to help Kyle out?
Yeah, and that's one of the coolest things I love about this sport. I've watched competitors that they're bitter rivals on the track, but as soon as one of them has an issue, the other one is the first one in the pits, helping them change a tire, swapping out a transmission, working on something to try to help them out. I've seen it with so many of these guys that you'll just jump right in there and say, I may hate you when we're turning laps on the track, but I'm going to help you get back out there so I can keep beating you.
Well, and the racing family is exactly that. It's a very tight family, and they'll protect each other in all aspects outside. I mean, there's a couple guys there that probably nobody cares if something happened to them, but for the most part, that's how everybody feels.
Yeah.
And the racers also, with their egos, they want to make sure, well, so-and-so didn't race, and that's why you won. No, get all the good guys on the track, so when I win, everybody thinks it's legit.
Yeah. I talked about some of the other guys in your point series. Mike Nichols. I haven't got a chance to talk to Mike this year, so I don't know his update on his 2017 plans, but I imagine he's going to break that IMCA record again.
Well, if he can keep reeling out the wins like he did, he won't hear this till after it already happened.
Yeah.
So, Jamie and I are going to go to Harlan Saturday night to give him some support because it's 6-3. Oh
yeah.
And so I was really wanted to see him win 63 features last year. He made it to 62. We were going to ship him down to Texas to see if he can get one more feature on him so he could win his car number in features. Didn't get that happening, but he's set out to break the all-time IMCA feature record and he's number 2 right now anyway.
Yeah, and that's the career-wise, not just season, right?
That's correct.
I think he's what is he over? How many over 100? I think. I'm trying to remember if he was over 600 wins.
Or is it somewhere like that? I don't know the precise number.
I thought I remember.
I tried putting together at one point in time just kind of a little stat, and the numbers were kind of scary for everybody that Home Pride's got some involvement with in total feature wins, track championships, and features, national championships. I don't want to reveal any of the numbers, but we're going to put something like that on a T-shirt that we're going to make available. But it's more. I was shocked. It's pretty impressive.
And that includes your wins, championships, titles, all that stuff,
which are nothing compared to everybody else's. But
you a few short of that 600 wins, are you?
Oh my gosh! I mean, some of these guys. I mean, when Jesse won his last B-Mod national championship, he won 67 features that year in 1 year in a B-Mod.
He was dominant that year. I mean, that was it was just crazy. And it was kind of fun to watch him and Abelson battling at Crawford. That was the last year I got to watch him race there. And before he went and moved on to race in, or you said B-Mod?
Yeah, that was a B-Mod.
He was in it.
He was really successful in the A-Mods. I mean, we missed the first year in A-Mod class winning the championship by 1 point. And it was even a little bit closer than that. It was 1 point and about 3 feet. Because he finished second to who the heck was it? It was Overnoski. Doggone it, I can't remember. But I mean, one more lap and he'd have had it. One more lap or another 100-foot of racetrack, and he had got by him. That was no fun. That he had won. The guy, in fact, that is leading the points now. Gould, is leading the national points as we speak. The last time I looked. He won 11 more features than Gould did that year, but they were out of region.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, IMCA gave you, you could win anywhere you went as long as it was a qualified win. And they kind of pulled a fast one on us and said that they were going to give us a bonus point or bonus points for winning the series down in Arizona, and then pulled back on it kind of midway through the season. So it came down to they were both tied, and we had to win one more race. And we didn't get it done.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back in turn number 3, and we will continue our conversation with Luke Cochran, owner of Home Pride Motorsports.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100+ people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
This week's young gun is 16-year-old Reese Vaught from Giltner, Nebraska. As far back as Reese can remember, it has been a dream to be a race car driver, and he got that chance 10 years ago in go-karts. After spending 5 years in karts, Reese moved into mini sprints for a year, then got his first dirt late model, which he still competes in today. Reese won the National Late Model Rookie of the Year at I-80 Speedway and Junction Motor Speedway in 2015, plus the UNOH Youth Achievement Award at Junction Motor Speedway in the same year. This season, Reese has his eyes set on many more trips to victory lane, and he wants to claim his first track championship in a late model. Someday, Reese hopes to tour nationally with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. He knows he couldn't be where he is or get to where he wants to go without the support of his family and sponsors. Keep an eye out for Reese and his Todd's Body and Glass, Joyce Agronomics, Platinum Agronomy Solutions, 20V at a dirt late model race near you. This week's Young Gun is presented by Craig Kelly at IKS Injury Attorneys.
For almost 70 years, Insura Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their family have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 391-4000.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Hitting into turn number 3, brought to you by SLS Promotions, presenting the World of Outlaws at Eagle Raceway on June 13th. Get your tickets in advance. Do not wait. The best show on dirt returns to the high banks and to the short tracks of Eagle Raceway on June 13th. You can pick up your tickets in advance. SLSpromotions.com. Make sure you get your tickets to see all the great action. And again, next weekend we'll have voice of the World of Outlaws, Johnny Gibson, on the show, and we'll have driver David Gravel joining us to preview that race coming up, again, June 13th at Eagle Raceway. We're sitting down having a conversation with Luke Cochran, owner of Home Pride Motorsports, and I want to talk a little bit about Jack Dover. He started off the year a little bit slow last year, and you went into the shop, and as much as he hates not winning, you hate not winning.
No, he and he's capable of winning all the time. He allows himself to be duped sometimes in trying things that and the shock package. I mean, I'm a believer if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
and that's precisely what happened this year. And and Jack, confidence is everything at racing. Jack, if you've got a confident Jack Dover, you're going to finish second.
Yeah.
To him. Jesse's the same way. If these guys got the confidence is a big tool in regards to racing. And and I've seen, when Jack doesn't have the confidence, he doesn't do really well.
Yeah.
And it kind of started out this season that way, and then now he's right back where he was. He
had some really funny things happen. The couple of times that he came out and raced at I-80 Speedway, he had what he told me was some bad gas. They were filling up at the Sapp Brothers on the way out to I-80, and he boiled it down to he's pretty sure there was dirt in the gas, and it kept clogging the fuel injection or the filter. But do they have fuel injectors or carburetors? Right?
Sprint car.
Okay, yeah.
Sprint cars injected.
Okay. So it kept clogging that, and so he would have issues getting going on the restarts, and then going into the corner, it would gargle.
Right.
And so he kept tearing these engines down, trying to figure out the problem. He only figured out it was dirty fuel because there was absolutely nothing wrong with the engine.
Yeah, and we'd been through that once before. And that's kind of one of the things with you need to get your methanol supplier, or buying track fuel. I mean, and we had this happen years ago when my dad, Randy Sterner, had RC Speed. We were a fuel dealer. We got a whole load of fuel one time that had a bunch of solvent in it. Because there was solvent in the lines when they pumped the barrels in full, and it munched our motor, munched Glenn Roby, it munched the motor he had, it munched and somebody else's. And what it did is, you can't tell. You're pouring it in; it's clear. It looks like alcohol, and it ends up being solvent, which is and just eats the cylinder walls off, all the lubrication on the cylinder walls, and just munches the motor. Well, we got a little bit of bad fuel a couple years ago, and those sprint cars are so sensitive because they're fuel injected, so you get one cylinder that's a little bit lean, and you end up burning a head gasket. And our Ford motor in Jack's sprint car, which is a little more sensitive than the rest. So that was a little bit of it. Was I think a bad fuel. I encourage any racer to try to. I don't want to have people don't buy fuel at the racetrack.
Right.
But as far as methanol goes, a consistent source is your best bet, because if you're running into one of these fuel problems, you're looking at everything. You're looking at ignition problems, you're looking at everything else, and then once you finally figure out that it's a fuel, it's like then you gotta unload all the fuel. What do you keep, what do you throw away? It's it's frustrating.
Probably can't return it, say, hey, your fuel's bad, mix it back into your supply and give me my money back.
No, that's not going to happen.
There's no warranty in anything in racing that I know of.
That's too bad. Talk to me about being a team owner. I've seen you kind of bounce around at the tracks, and you have this father figure with a lot of your drivers. Do you find that
that's a scary thought.
That's horrifying.
Do you find that you need to, when Jack's struggling, go and visit him at the racetrack and give him a pep talk? When Jesse's struggling, go and visit him, or when one of your guys are struggling?
What I've discovered or what Home Pride Motorsports is about is facilitating success. I've either been blessed or cursed with the ability to look at something, see kind of what's, this part they're doing really well and that part they're a little short of, and try to fill in that blank. you know, and try to bestow instill confidence in the guys. You know, me being a father figure, I don't know, that's a bit of a stretch. I do look at all of them as family members.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm Jack's crazy uncle. The relationship between myself, Jamie, and the Sobbings has gone far beyond just racing. It's it's family.
Yeah.
And it's pretty tough to beat family if everybody's sailing the ships in the same direction.
Absolutely. And you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about Jamie. She's been a very good influence on your life. I've seen you in the last year and a half be a lot bubblier, a lot happier guy. I mean, you're still kind of the grouchy old roofer.
Old father figure.
You know, but at least you got a smile on your face when you're being grouchy.
You know, she didn't get to come to the races this past weekend, and you know, and experience all the success. She's a regional manager for Taco Bell's in West Kansas, and has been kind of stranded there for the last 2 or 3 weeks. In fact, she's hopefully going to be home tonight. She'll have been home by the time this airs. But I'm not ashamed to say that she's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Good. So. That's good. I'm glad you found that, because you and I had kind of a talk a couple of years ago, and you were kind of in a rough spot where I think a relationship with you had kind of ended, and you were a little bit let down. There was some crossroads going on at the company, and then just weeks later, I think you met Jamie, and things just really turned for you. I'm happy.
Yeah, well, we met at the races, and we became friends first. You know, all of those, and you know, both have a great love of racing. Both her sons are involved, you know, big time in racing. Her dad raced. Her dad helps one of her sons, and it's kind of almost storybook like. You know, I mean, it's like we don't have to. I don't have to wonder what we're doing this weekend. Which race are we going to? Yeah, you know, and it's already a planned out. It doesn't have to. I got to talk my better half into going and doing this, and then I have to make a concession and go do something they want to do.
So, so your guys' conversations then on Friday night, instead of where I'm asking, hey, where do you want to go eat? And she says, you pick. You say, where do you want to go races? And she says, you pick.
Yeah. I mean, race, if we go, 4 nights a week, that's what we do. Yeah. And it isn't even a second thought. You know, I mean, I missed Friday night's race because my niece and nephew graduated, so I had to go to a graduation party. And but other than that, I mean, and the whole time I'm on my phone checking what's happening, what the whole 9 yards. Yeah. It's a huge part of my life and her life, and we really enjoy the fun that we're having together and being part of all this. You know, today, in fact, I was at the trophy place helping design we're going to have a traveling trophy. For we've Home Pride sponsoring the Super Late Model Series Rookie of the Year for the next 5 years, and I am building a custom traveling trophy that's going to have each year of who that racer is inscribed on it, and then I'm trying to work a deal with potentially the Speedway Museum for it to be on display there until the banquet comes around. And people that know me very well know that I'm not going to cut any corners. Yep. This is going to be an unbelievably beautiful trophy, and it's going to be worthy of that museum. That's going to be. I'm excited to see that. Going back to Jamie real quick, is there any talks about you guys getting hitched, or is it kind of in that phase of we're just enjoying each other? Kind of feels like we're married already. We spend a lot of time together. We enjoy each other's company. My work situation is a little difficult right now, but that is hopefully improving. We hardly fight about anything. I mean, we're both love racing and come to the defense of our racers at a drop of a hat. Yes, she does. Equally. Yes, you do. Yeah, she's a small package of dynamite. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if words can describe how happy I am. Well, that's good. I expect if you guys do end up getting hitched, you can send the wedding invitation to the radio station, and we'll. Well, yeah, it's going to have to be in the off season. That's what race people get married in January. Of course.
Well, most of them do. Some of them screw up every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse and Brandy just celebrated their 14th wedding anniversary, which was Wednesday. Yeah. By the time this aired, it was this past Wednesday, which is also his brother Kenny's birthday. Oh yeah. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's how I can remember it.
That's how he remembers it too.
The thing I love about you is that I always hear little rumors about you, and then I think, no, he's not doing that. And then I talk to you, and sure enough, you're doing it. You're trying to do it. You really, there is no such thing as too big for you. I mean, you'll find a way to make something happen. And there's a couple of things. Can we talk about?
Sure.
The public
I don't know
things?
if it's going to materialize completely, but through this whole racing connection, you meet a lot of people. Kenny Schrader being one of them, and Kenny's a really good guy. So I've asked his advice on a couple of situations, but I'm assuming you're going to bring up the possibility of a Craftsman truck at Rossburg, Ohio.
There's a little race down there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I think it's a goal. They were a little late, kind of, and ironically, it's such a horrible proximity to the Silver Dollar Nationals.
I know.
We're going to try to field two cars. We're going to field two cars there. They have SLMR car and a Lucas Oil car.
That was the other thing, was that I think you went and got a bigger boy engine.
Yeah, that's pretty much a done deal. We got a CT 525 that we won with at Raceway Park. That when Jesse took the carburetor off, I mean, I had to push him back to the pits because the motor was locked up.
Yeah.
I mean that he finished the race. I mean, when we pulled the carburetor off, most of the pistons were in the intake.
Oh.
So I don't know how that thing finished, but and so that's pretty much what I was doing. A couple text messages you see me messing with here is we're getting a new CT 525 from Pace Performance in Youngstown, Ohio. That's going to be a sort of a sponsorship connection made at the PIR show. Great people out there.
Yeah.
And they're really grooming the crate situation. But and a couple of videos of the motor being dynoed today and so, but we're not going to make it back in time to get it in the car, so we'll probably have to run the IMSA spec motor car Friday night.
Okay. And so then after the Go 50, Jesse ran well in the Go 50 for having an under-horsepowered engine compared to the Lucas Oil guys. You looked at that and said, I got to get him a bigger engine because then maybe we can go out and win this.
We went to that race solely to shake down the car with, the late model with the 525 in it. We're giving up 300 horsepower, not just a couple. I mean, and if you watched him in the corner, he could suck right up on those guys. But 300 horsepower leaves you crying at the altar going down straightaway there. And obviously, you got to have enough horsepower. So we've got a motor that's building about 850 horse. So I'm pretty sure that'll be competitive. But we know the cars are. We know he is. So I think.
And what chassis is that?
The Black Diamonds.
Okay.
Stucky cars.
Yeah, those are pretty popular in the Lucas Oil series.
Yeah, and the I mean it's working.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're very subtle changes that we're having to make from heat race to feature. Jesse's a way better chassis guy than I think anybody's ever given him credit for. The great thing about him is he can increase the size of the sweet spot. He can drive the difference of a bad setup.
Yeah.
There's some guys that you got to be standing in the batter's box and not even a toe out of the batter's box. And then there's the guys that you just put in the stadium, and then there's the ones
bat.
Yeah, and you hand them a bat or in the parking lot. Jesse just got to be in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Wow. How special would it be for you to win for Jesse to be that first local guy to win the Silver Dollar Nationals?
Well, it would.
There'd be a heck of a party. We could start with that.
I would be monumentally proud, but I'm also very realistic. And you got to crawl before you walk,
right?
And you got to walk before you run. And a lot to do with that race is respect.
Yeah.
And garnering the respect of the other guys. Now, if you can get, Jesse's raced with these guys before. I mean, we had a decent motor in the car when we went to Knoxville last year that broke. And he was driving away from him in his heat race. But that's a heat race. A lot of it is just, it's a long race. It's a lot of laps. A lot of things change. The tracks change. A lot of the guys struggle with these long races. Jesse seems to get better the longer the race is.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key things I've seen a lot of these Lucas Oil guys is that they're going to set their car up for laps 50 through 80 at the Silver Dollar Nationals. They couldn't care less about 1 through 50. They've got to have that car ready to go for lap 50, and that's when it gets turned on.
Yeah, and our Mr. Bloomquist is, anybody that thought he was retiring he is on his game. He is a wheel man.
Mm-hmm.
He's another guy that can make the sweet spot really, really big.
Well, sitting and watching him at the Go 50, he picked a line about a lane off the bottom, and he hit it every time. Every time. I couldn't see 3 and 4, but I was sitting down in turn 1, and he never wavered. I mean, he went in, he lifted, banged it, all at the same spot every lap.
Track was a little bit rough, but you couldn't tell when he went through the corner.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody's seesawing on the wheel, and you could just see everybody behind him, and they're loose and tight, loose, and he just goes through there, and then he would just stand on the gas, and that thing would launch like a dragster.
Yeah.
Down the straightaway.
It was a thing of beauty to watch.
Yeah.
Luke, always do love talking to you. Come back on the show more often and bring that lovely girlfriend of yours in sometime too.
Yeah, she would probably enjoy being on here, and she's not afraid to talk. So.
No, she's not. I like talking to her at the track. She's a good girl. One last question. Who's the better cook? I've seen pictures of you cooking, and I haven't seen any pictures of her cooking. So do you have that game?
Well, I'm pretty. I'm a good cook. She's a good cook too.
Yeah.
But I kind of like to cook.
Yeah.
So when it happens to be something you really like to do, I kind of take over.
Yeah. That's kind of the way I am with my girlfriend. I do most of the cooking because I enjoy it.
I don't think she minds as long as I makes good stuff, But we do all of that together, her and I, and we go to the shop, we go to the grocery store together, and our pit grub has a reputation just as everything else.
I have yet to enjoy that. One of these nights I gotta sneak down there when I'm pit reporting for you for I-80 or.
Yeah, we've got a few things that we cooked frog legs once, and that's I like frog legs, but it tastes like chicken, has bones in it. Chicken bones at the races, bad luck. Worst night we ever had at Lakeside.
And they're green.
Well, these weren't green. I mean, you strip all the green stuff off of them, and they move. You put a little salt on them and put them on there, and they move. Jesse didn't groove on that much.
Maybe not. Always do enjoy following you. Home Pride Motorsports is the Facebook page. Keep an eye on them because they're going to be in Victory Lane at a short track near you, at a dirt track near you, and maybe at a NASCAR sanctioned track near you. Well, that doesn't make any sense because I-80 is a NASCAR sanctioned track. Maybe at a Camping World Truck Series race near you.
Yeah, I mean, my conversation with Mr. Schrader, he thinks Jesse would be would shine. But,
well,
so much money.
The dirt driver, Bobby Pierce, did real well there, and talk about a young super talent. Holy cow!
Yeah, well, he's having a lot of success, but it kept him from coming to the Silver Dollar Nationals too.
And that's what I wonder about Jesse is how can he transition into asphalt? And B, like you just said, that is a big commitment. And I don't really like the way that they're doing it with Bobby Pierce because he's getting 5 or 6 races a year. And I don't think you can learn like that. It's you don't get enough experience. You've got to run a full season and really at the end of the season kind of see where they're at to decide how it's going.
Plus, you got to be, 19 years old. I mean, I'm watching these races. You see these guys get interviewed. They look like they're still in high school.
What's Jesse, 30?
33.
33? Okay. He's younger than me? That's weird to think.
One point in the 600 the other night, 3 out of the top 4 guys, I think Chase Elliott or somebody, what's Chase, like 23 or something? He was the oldest guy,
Chase Elliott is, I think, maybe 20 years old. I mean, the last 2 years, when he won the nationwide championship, he was still in high school.
Yeah, I mean, there was Chase Elliott, there was Ryan Blaney, there was Eric Jones. All running in the top 4, and they might still be wearing diapers. I don't know.
What do you think? Lil Lee and Tony retired.
Yeah.
It's a young man's game.
It's getting there again.
It does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, again, find them on Facebook, Home Pride Company, Home Pride Motorsports. You can also find Home Pride Companies. If it is hail season, if you have any damage done to your house, make sure to give Luke and all of his guys a call. They're going to take great care of you. I know you've taken great care of me with my roof. I really appreciate you getting the tree off of my roof and taking care of everything.
Especially since the tree was bigger than the house.
It was, yeah, and I got another one. If you want to come cut a tree down, I might need your help.
I'm going to stay out of the tree business.
Its sister is waving a little bit, and I don't want it landing on my house too, because I don't think I'm going to get lucky twice.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back in turn number 4 to wrap this all up, and we'll be back here on the front stretch.
You wanted the best? They're coming 4 abreast. It's the World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars. The premiered winged warriors battle it out. The World of Outlaws Superstars. The greatest show on dirt is coming. The World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars are coming to Eagle Raceway for the Eagle Nationals, Tuesday, June 13th, racing at 7:30. Exchange a receipt from a participating Napa Auto Parts store for a $5 off general admission ticket at the gate on race day. To buy tickets, go to slspromotions.com.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 4, brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube today for the AAA 400 Drive for Autism. Green flag waves a little after 2 p.m., so that means all the picks for today's, a little after noon. So all picks for today's Pick'ems contest are due by noon today. Make sure you get them in on time. Do not be late or you will be sorry. We're going to, like we said, we're going to kind of flip up the script just a little bit, and we're going to do a bit of a recap of the Charlie Clark Memorial, plus we'll preview the race today at Dover. And that Charlie Clark Memorial, I've said it 100 times, and it's becoming a running joke amongst everybody around this time of the year of how much I love that race. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the race recap and kind of the format. So we talked about, actually the most surprising thing was the amount of cars that showed up that night. Did I text you how many cars we ended up having?
It was like 208 or something like that.
208 cars. And that kind of goes, Joe Koziski and I have had a lot of conversations with other people about this. That race is starting to become a destination race for a local crowd. You know, the Silver Dollar Nationals is a destination race for national racing. These guys on the Lucas Oil Series and a lot of the nationally touring late model guys through the World of Outlaws, through MLRA and CBC and the SLMR, those guys, they all want to win that Silver Dollar Nationals. It's kind of becoming a crown jewel, but I think that the Charlie Clark Memorial is becoming a kind of a crown jewel of this area because Charlie meant a lot to a lot of people, and it's a very passionate race, and so you get some amazing races, and amazing battles, and so that it makes it a big race for drivers to win, and it makes it a great race for fans to watch.
Well, it's got the gimmick with the pit stop that you just don't see that at a dirt race, and then they reinvert the lead lap cars and let the guy that was fast at the beginning start back in the pack and see if he can still be fast. So, you go from winning the first 22 laps and starting 16th, 17th, 18th on the second segment to win that second segment is really tough.
So all the heat races set up the starting grid, and then they, like you were just saying, they run 22 laps, and there was 28 cars that started the feature. They automatically dropped off 6, and then lead lap cars that went a lap down got to start, didn't get inverted. So the leader at the end of the segment, again, they dropped off the 6 worst cars, so there was only 22 cars left on the track. And then by the end of that first segment, they'd only lapped 1 car. So the leader went back to 21st. Second place went back to 20th, and then so on and so forth all the way back. And I know the leader was trying desperately to lap as many cars as possible. There was just a little bit too many cautions for them to be able to do that. And the great part about that race was, Jordan Grabowski, I believe he started second or third place for that first 22-lap feature. And it was, I talked to him a couple times pre-race and before that race weekend. He really wanted that win because it meant a lot to him with knowing Charlie and buying stuff from Charlie, and ended up finding the story out later that Charlie ended up passing away in Jordan's trailer. So Jordan feels a little bit of a connection to Charlie and the family with that sense. And Jordan's out there leading, and he's running some great lap times, but then he gets stuck in lap traffic, and he just can't quite get around him. And second place, Justin Kai comes out of nowhere in turn 3 and runs right past him on the high side and takes the win for the first segment away from Jordan Grabowski, and ends up winning the first of 22 lap feature. So they all come down that front stretch, and all the teams line up, and we do the pit stop, which I love. I think that's a really cool thing to do. And it's very fun and interactive for fans. Almost everybody came out of the grandstands along that fence and was yelling at the teams. There was some trash talk going on, which is kind of fun, and there was a couple of fans that were screaming to the drivers what they should do, and I didn't know if they were doing it just to mess with them or make it actual advice, like tighten that car up, you got to be on the high side, or whatever they were doing. So it was a really fun interactive thing for the fans to do too. And then Grabowski started 20th. Justin Kai started 21st. Kai didn't really get going very well, and it was a thing of beauty to watch Jordan Grabowski work his way through that field, and I think it only took him about 9 laps to get to the front again, which is remarkable. I mean, in an A-Mod feature like that, with 22 other cars on the track, to take less than half the feature laps to get to the front, I think was a work of art, and that was a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, well, I think Jordan's won the race before, I do believe.
He has. He's won it twice. That was his third Charlie Clark Memorial Championship. Only one person has swept the whole weekend. One feature A, one feature 2, and then obviously won the points, the overall championship. That was Jesse Dennis in 2015. So Grabowski was trying to do that this weekend, and unfortunately a poorly timed lap car, and Jordan was pretty upset with his spotting crew at the end of that night, at the end of that first segment, because those guys are responsible for standing on the infield wall, kind of spreading their arms out to how far Jordan has to the second placement. And apparently his spotter guy had black sleeves on, and so Jordan was a little unhappy. Well, why would you wear black to a night race? I can't see your arms like that. Get a light, get something, so I could see where I was at, or I could have done something about it. But he'll have to sweep it next year.
Yeah. He'll be back. He's not going to give it up.
One of the best A-Mod drivers in this area.
Absolutely.
And we're efforting getting him on the show. We had some miscommunication, was trying to get him on the last couple of weeks, but he said that he's given me a new communication method. So to be able to get him scheduled to get him on the show, and he's really excited. Pony Express. All right, so that was the Charlie Clark Memorial. Again, Jordan Grabowski wins the feature, wins the second feature, and wins the championship, so he took home $2,022. Justin Kai, who won the first segment, won $2,022. So that was a big weekend for those two. Racer Ricky Steffen came home in third. Excuse me, I skipped one. Nick Roberts came home second. Racer Ricky Steffen in third. Kelly Shryock in fourth, Jesse Dennis fifth, Dylan Smith sixth, Justin Zeitner seventh, Josh Vogt and Ryan Jenkins round out your top 9. And again, that was the finishers for the second segment. I thought Ryan Jenkins did a very good job for only being a second time in an A-Mod in the year. That's his new car that he finally got ready, and he came out and raced at the Go 50. Apparently the brakes locked up, which is why he couldn't go anywhere on the straightaways, but it was helping him through the corners, and he got that problem fixed, and he did really well for himself in both segments. He had to start from the back in both of them. I think the second segment, he got penalized because his crew didn't finish their pit stop in 2 minutes and 22 seconds, so he got sent to the back.
Well, that's what they do.
That's the penalty you pay, and he did a very good job coming up from the back of the field tonight. So someone to watch. And also, Ryan was our Young Guns feature last weekend. I believe this weekend is going to be. It was Reese Vaught. So if you miss any part of that, you can go back to our Stitcher account and our YouTube account, and you can replay that. We'll make sure and note that on the broadcast. But those Young Gun features, they're here to shine the spotlight on the young drivers. They don't necessarily have to be the most talented drivers. We're featuring some pretty talented drivers, but we want to feature the young guys. So if you know anybody, email us, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. Dirk, while we've got a couple minutes left in the show, let's talk briefly about Dover. It's going to be a big change from going from the big speedway of Charlotte down to the fast short track of Dover.
Well, this will be a race where I do believe everybody will get through qualifying inspection and make a lap to qualify, because it's very tough to come through the pack at this track. It's the track will be very wide. There'll be 4 to 5 grooves in the turns. Usually the shortest way around is staying close to the bottom and kind of diamonding the turn. The whole track has banking, so it self-cleans itself. If you hit the wall on the outside, you can't keep it up there. You're going to come down the track.
Yeah.
Unless you had it really slowed down before you got into the wall. But it's going to be good racing. Jimmy Johnson's very good there.
Kyle Busch is one of the statistically best guys there right now.
Carl Edwards was very good there, but they don't have to worry about him this week.
Right.
The Roush cars over the years have done real good there. Stenhouse qualified good there in one of the 2 races last year, but then had a little trouble during the race on a pit stop, if I remember right, and ended up mid-pack, but he was qualified like in the top 5.
Kenseth, Larson, Gordon, Kane, and Kurt Busch were your top 5 in the spring race last year. In the fall race last year, it was Truex, Kyle Busch, Jeff Gordon, Brad Keselowski, and Matt Kenseth. So those were the 2 races, top 5s this time last year. Again, the race set to kick off at noon today. Who are you kind of thinking early? I know we pre-recorded, and I hate asking that question, but for some reason I do it every time. Are you thinking anybody ahead of time before we know the practice results and the starting grids?
No, because the fields have been so jumbled. I mean, you've seen some real good qualifying efforts out of some people, and like we talked about earlier, you got 2 wins out of Richard Childress Racing and nothing out of Joe Gibbs at this point in the year.
Right.
And nobody could have predicted that at the beginning of the year. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Richard Childress didn't predict that, I'll guarantee you.
Yeah.
You know, and another thing that makes the Austin Dillon win so cool is they just changed crew chiefs.
Yeah.
First time with the new crew chief.
How? And I think we talked about it on last weekend's show. Slugger Labby basically volunteered and said, you might as well just find somebody new because it's not working right now.
Well,
and he voluntarily kind of said, we need to walk away because it's not working between the 2 of us. If he'd just hung on for one more race. But then again, maybe his strategy may not have worked.
And I don't believe that story that he came up with that. When he took at the All-Star race, and Richard Childress said not to go back out in qualifying and save your tires for the race, and he sent Dillon back out. You know, there was radio communication there where Dillon says, he's making me go. I don't want to go back out there. I want to keep my tires, you know. But once you make the commitment to go out there, you're not just going to coast around the track and you're going to try to improve. But it was, you know, if he would have improved, that would have been 4 or 5 laps on the tires, and then he would have had to go out and make another run,
right?
You know, because he was in the top 8. And put some more time on the tires, you know, and he didn't want to do that. Pop didn't want to do that.
But what a good debut for his crew chief. I don't even know his name yet. I have to do some research and figure that out.